everyone for joining us. We appreciate it. We're going to give a few OmniAir updates. I'll ask Randy to quickly go through some summary of PlugFest results. We had a deeper dive in our technical working group meeting. If anyone wants the full presentation on that, that is available to members. And then we will have a guest speaker or two from Brand Motion talking about aftermarket V2X device installations, everything you always wanted to know, but were afraid to ask. Okay, let's get started. So thank you all who are OmniAir members, and for those of you who are not yet members, we'd certainly encourage you to join. I think one of the unique things about OmniAir is that we do have what we think is the complete ecosystem for connected vehicles as well as for electronic toll collection. Everyone from automotive OEMs to tier one suppliers to research institutes, and of course deploying agencies. If you're interested in membership or learning more about the organization, click on the QR code there, and we'll be happy to get back to you. But we are here to talk about a new member. I am incredibly excited to bring on Pennsylvania Turnpike as a commission, as our newest executive level member of OmniAir. I've been somewhat aware of Pennsylvania Turnpike, being a customer of the Turnpike and traveling on it a good bit, but I did not know until I got to know them how forward-leaning they are in technology and moving to all electronic toll collection, also with the Pin Start program, leading some testing for connected and automated vehicles. They're doing some really innovative things, and I would like to welcome Stacia Ritter, who is with the Turnpike Commission, to just say a few words.
Thank you, Jason. Can you guys hear me all right? Give me a thumbs up if it's coming through.
Absolutely.
Perfect. No, we are very excited at the Turnpike to join Omni. I think we've been following the progression of the organization from around the edges. Obviously, we are a Easy Pass IAG member, so great feedback from Jose and Manish, and obviously PJ. So we're very happy to join and talk about some of the exciting things we're doing here at the Turnpike and learn from your membership as well. Really being on the cutting edge of innovation and very interested on the certification and processes and things that we may be able to do to help streamline some things we do on the toll agency side. And just look forward to the conversation and discussion. So thank you, Jason. We will be meeting internally, I think, to have a kickoff call to get some folks from our organization assigned to the committees. It really touches a whole breadth of our organization, and we'll be looking for some expertise from our traffic ops folks, our connected vehicle folks, tolling folks, and again, just really excited. So thank you very much.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much. We're excited to have you on board. Okay, next. And we do have one announcement on our certification services. It is Telecommunications Technology Association is our newest reauthorized OmniAir test laboratory. They are, of course, in Korea, and they are one of our three laboratories that are authorized for CV2X certification testing, and they have just completed several certifications that came out of that laboratory just in the past month. So we're very excited to have them on board, and I know it's a little bit late in Korea, so I don't know if anyone is on the call from TTA, but I expect they'll be on the call tonight. We're repeating this call for members in Asia at 9 p.m. Eastern. So once again, congratulations to TTA. For those so inclined, we do have 3 open seats for our board of directors. Call for nominations was issued in October. We are asking any interested in serving on the board to provide their resumes and letters of interest by November 10th. We have a nominating committee of the board that will be meeting shortly thereafter, and we'll have elections at our December 4th board meeting in Austin, Texas. It is an opportunity to help shape the direction of OmniAir, our testing and certification programs. We're really looking for leaders from both the public sector and the private sector who can bring expertise and experience and judgment that will help move the organization forward. So if you're interested, please send me a note or send a note to Brukenda. Thank you. So what is next for OmniAir coming up next year? I'm just going to give you a little preview of some of the priorities that were talked about at the September board meeting and that we have decided on in our working groups that we're going to be taking direction here. VitaX based tolling is something that is really goes to the origin story of OmniAir. We actually spun out of IBTTA some 20 years ago with the idea that the SRC would be used for toll collection in the United States, and for a variety of reasons that didn't happen. But what has been happening, I think very exciting, in our Florida Plug Fest, we saw demonstrations from two different vendors on two separate CB2X based tolling systems. We have another member, North Carolina Turnpike, that is piloting very innovative telematics and VitaX tolling systems. And we have at least two tolling agencies that are members that have indicated they're looking to do demonstrations next year. I think it's a fast-growing area of opportunity. Randy Roebuck on our team has been chairing an SAE working group on this. And we are launching a new initiative to focus on standards compliant OBUs, so certifying OBUs for 3217 compliance as well as for RSUs. It's a big new initiative. It'll be kicking off early in the year. So if you're interested in being part of that, you really do need to renew that membership. Network VitaX tolling, for anyone who went to the ITS World Congress, you noticed that many of the outside demonstrations were focused on network VitaX of one form or another. We believe that is it's going to be a big part of the future of connected vehicles. And our goal is to ensure that those network VitaX messages and equipment are standards compliant or interoperable and are trusted in the same as direct VitaX. So we're looking forward to making that a huge initiative. It's something that's been happening already in our technical working group. We're going to put a much more emphasis on that next year. Sensor certification. Nick Hegemeyer with Drive Ohio has been leading this effort in the RSU working group. We are going to kick that off looking at not just certification for VitaX, but some of the, in a connected intersection environment, some of those non-RF sensors, such as camera and LiDAR, offering certification and seeing what that means. So that's a new initiative. Advanced air mobility, or maybe a better way to put that is simply aviation. So looking at UAS as well as eVTOLs. There is a strong interest in electronic conspicuity using VitaX-like systems called A2X. So as well as NTN and some other cellular-based systems. OmniAir is part of a contract team that will be working on that, sort of under the auspices of the US DOT. I'll have more to announce at the December meeting, but we're really excited about that because it is taking VitaX out of the terrestrial environment and solving what I think is one of the most challenging problems of our time with the proliferation of UAS aircraft in our already crowded skies. Plugfest readiness events, we'll be doing two events. We're also looking at a separate event focused just on cybersecurity. We'll have some more details hopefully in December for that, as well as workshops on timely topics. So if you are thinking about your membership, trying to make that decision, we'll provide you with any information you need to help on this, but we really want you to be part of this and take an active role. There will be leadership opportunities in each of these areas. Next, please. So we are ticking up our dues rates just a little bit, 10% across the board. So you'll see on the right-hand column the 2026 dues rates. We're trying to keep this affordable, but at the same time, we do have an ambitious agenda. We want to make sure that we are appropriately resourced for that. We have, in addition to our associate and executive level programs, we have what we call our all-you-can-eat programs, which is our sustaining partnership program that we've been offering for the past several years. And that is, let me just go to the next slide, please. We'll go through this in a little bit more detail. We have an existing program that is what we call our all-inclusive, and that includes all certification services. So if you're seeking laboratory authorization, test equipment qualification, device certification, unlimited certification services are available, as well as free PlugFest and workshops. Next year, that price will go to $35,000, but we are offering a lower level of that for really those that are more marketing focused. So let's say that there are engineering firms or others that would never seek certification, but really want to be involved in Plugfests and to have a little bit of a marketing visibility in this space. We've created a $25,000 level membership for that. So if you're interested in either of these, reach out to Ryan Hall or myself, and we're happy to talk to you about this in more detail. And we'll have some more information coming out to the members shortly. Next, please. So we're going to do a very quick working group update, and then we'll move on to some Plugfest results. And then, of course, we'll introduce our guest speakers, which I'm sure everyone is looking forward to. 9 active OmniAir working groups, as well as several Tiger teams working on various problems. Because of the Plugfest last month, we had fewer working group meetings than we normally would. So we'll have a fairly short update. Let's go to that slide. So Plugfest technical preparation really was focused on completing Plugfest prep in advance of the October 6th through 10th Plugfest. Our technical working group, we did a more detailed review of our results from the ACM event, and we started developing some road mapping for 2026. Connected infrastructure, continuing work on the J3224 profile for infrastructure sensor sharing and SDSM messages, and starting to investigate CTI 4001. Application testing, developing test cases for our virtual VRUs, and priority preemption bench testing. There'll be some additional work needed on the UCAM, which is of course, on our GitHub. Aftermarket, we've restarted in September with the completion of the SAE J3315 standard. That was released at the end of October, and we're incorporating those changes into the 767 test document. Sean Mashu is leading that effort. On tolling, we're updating multi-protocol reader testing for field test runs, reference devices used. We also had some recent changes to the environmental testing requirements. And then road usage charge, we'll have Oregon DOT offering presentation on some of their certification and verification needs. Cybersecurity working group, a lot of work has been happening on misbehavior detection. That is Anthony Lopez of Qualcomm has been leading the charge on that. We're really excited about that. We have an update to our 1609.2.1 test specification, and that will be going to 14-day ballot. And we're continuing to work on the 1609.2 negative test cases. And I don't know what we have in store for the certification policy working group, but it looks like a presentation on Buy America compliance. So should be really interesting. Join us on the 12th for that. Next, please. And Plugfest. I would be remiss to say enough thank yous to our partners in the Plugfest event. We hosted this at the American Center of Mobility in Ypsilanti, Michigan. Just a fantastic facility, an even better team. We're very pleased with all of the support that we had from ACM as well as Michigan DOT and all of our partners there. And of course, SCMS Manager, which was a co-host for the event. Just did an outstanding job. We had a workshop, all-day workshop. We even did a Chusick luncheon and a reception that evening and technical deep dives throughout the week. And I have asked Randy Roebuck and Shaquille Zafar on our technical side of the house to provide a very quick update of some Plugfest results. And again, if you want the full results, we can mail that out to any members. All right, Randy, in lightning speed,
Okay.
this
Well,
is your opportunity.
I got about 10 minutes here. Thank you very much. We did present this at the technical working group last week, and it's all 40 some slides. It's really pared down here. And as soon as the government gets back to work, we'll present a USDOT industry interoperability on a set of results. So this will not be the last time. In our summary, of course, the SCMS process, we validated, and the first time we really had all 5 SCMS providers tested on a majority of the devices. We had 8 device manufacturers, 6 OBUs, and 5 RSUs, which really had a test schedule that allowed their full set of testing, and some of them went back to some test stations 2 or 3 times. The bench testing was done Monday through Friday morning. We did a lot of field testing as far as drive interoperability, BSM performance. First time we had Vector in their application testing, and we did a TIM message interoperability on Thursday. Every day on the event day, we had various VDX panels, such as day one deployments by MDOT and UMTRI. Then we also had a Korean activities panel hosted by LGE, Cecil Tech, AutoCrypt, and Waities. Then we also had a future trends, which covered automated marshaling from Ford, and that standard is J3292. Then we had on connectivity. Then we did the VDX tolling, which Jason mentioned about as one of our key themes, which is J3217. On technical presentations, we had multiple ones throughout the week. In between the testing stations, Vector gave on their test equipment applications, were very gracious. They attended the earlier Plug Fest, and we thank you for coming back, and they have a lot to offer in their test system and testing applications moving forward. We had INS VX network and security certificates. They also were demoing a network Vita X. On Thursday, we had the noble misbehavior and reporting, and we also had a standards update by Steve Van Sickle, and then Cecil Tech presented their test tool. Next slide, please. Here are listings of our OBU and RSU suppliers that attended. We also had this shows the test stations. We had 2 bays completely full of testing there at ACM. We'll show the SCM's fighters on the next slide. And Brian Motion, who's our speaker right after this, exhibited the stuff that they did, who's there locally. Next slide. One of the big themes was SCMS interoperability, and there's been a lot of advancement on the 69.2.1, which is certificates acquisition and loading. You can see that all the devices participated with each SCMS provider. You can see most of them passed on their devices. And some of the devices may have not even ever tried all the SCMS providers. So we thought this was some really good results in moving forward. We do recommend that the SCMS provider bring an OBU and an RSU with their certificates in the future for interoperability testing, because we're at the courteous of the device manufacturers in participating in that. And some folks took Plugfest like it is, and hey, let's go try it. It's all about readiness, and let's see what happens. There are some people who really don't want to do it unless they've tried it back in their engineering labs first. So we greatly appreciate everybody in this perspective. And one of these devices that not run, we actually tested a test tool radio proxy on this. So it really wasn't ready for it, but we tried it anyway. The Cecil Tech test results, they basically did the 3 test cases that are mandatory and moving forward, and that was all successful. And going from there in the future Plugfest, we'll start trying the CRL and the CTL test cases. Advance to the next step. Next slide. Security certificates and application. This Vector came. We very appreciate actually their application test system that can test both from a bench and field perspective, can simulate number of devices in their test tool when you're actually testing against the device under test. So they actually put in 5 vehicles and put a certificate on each one of them from a different provider and showed we had SEMS interoperability in that perspective. That was greatly appreciated um, and something we'll move forward with. Thank you. Next slide. Vector, this is their bench and field testing. They can simulate the GPS. They use their canoe system, which a lot of other people has it underneath their test tools that you may not realize. So we focused on RSU message reception and doing the MapSpat, TIM, and SDSM. We could do some interoperability and certificate validation. We also did SCMS validation. So very successful and look forward to how to make better use of this test equipment. And also we did hard braking and forward collision warning. One thing we've discovered, like in hard braking event, the device it transmits, it will trigger the hard braking and it'll tell other people how to do it. But what I kind of learned this time was on the receiving end, if the hard braking happens farther away, which is not a risk, really the standards don't tell you when you need to react to it, and you kind of have to use your own judgment. So there's some things we got to do in the receiving side of testing applications in the future. Next slide. We've had the Waities tool. We're very appreciative. Waities allowed the Stoll Leidos Nobles team to run it there. Um, and they came the first couple days since it was their Thanksgiving week in Korea, got it set up, got it working. And this is a graph that kind of shows the 5 OBUs going through all the different series of testing. There's one device that passed all the way through, and a couple others have a couple other items to work on, but we kind of show the 2D location accuracy, the hard braking event, and the security chipping as a couple of the major testing items in there. And this location accuracy is getting very, very good. And actually created a video that actually shows this accuracy. Um, if you want to go to our website and actually replay it. Next slide. The power of direct feedx and network feedx. We actually had the iTerrace test tool basically looking at all the messages, the TIMs, the SPATs, and the maps. We used the field test course. You can see on the right-hand side where it shows the vehicle going and coming out of the tunnel. On the far right side upper corner, you can actually see the car and the test tools losing GPS. We got about a third away under the tunnel. We lost GPS. Of course, the devices kind of went into a stall. Then right when we came out of the tunnel, when GPS got connection again, started working all the way around. And on the bottom side, you can see the yellow circle there, the edges of the TIM message. That's actually being broadcast really fairly far away from it. And you also see the intersection where you see the SPAT messages. On the right side, that came from a iPhone 5G for its network V2X. We actually was using an Edifice Air, actually capturing the LTE that was also being captured on the ground and pushing it into the app and showing the spat and the map and the Tim stuff and that stuff. So, and also on the very far left, you can see the M City tract where there's uh, eight different vehicles plus my test vehicle doing V2V apps. So I've actually completed a video with all three playing and describing it. It's about 5 minutes long. So we welcome for you to go to our location, this video, and replay it. It would really, I actually took Ryan on it on a ride Thursday afternoon, and uh, he didn't realize exactly what the power and what this done. But
Randy, I apologize. We just need to wrap this up in about 2 minutes.
I only have one more
Oh, 2
slide,
minutes. Okay.
so we can go from there. Next slide. On this last slide and transition into OBU installation inspection, Integral Blue came and tested all the RSUs, did a very thorough analysis of RSUs coming to an education, coming into installation, and really wrote a very comprehensive report, NAMA. So we welcome you to go to our SharePoint site to see his analysis, and which was greatly appreciated for RSU installation. And it actually leads into brand motion on what you need to do for OBU installations. Thank you very much. And
Thank you, Randy, for giving that to us in lightning speed. And of course, those we did have a full hour presentation on that in our technical working group. That is available on the that presentation is available on our SharePoint for the technical working group. Or if you're interested in that, just reach out to Randy or Bekenda, and they will be happy to get it to you. So I am so excited to have two guest speakers. It's rare that we have a gentleman with this much experience in deploying C-V2X and V2X generally technologies. Um, Brand Motion is one of our newest members. They are based in Novi, Michigan. They have years and years of experience in aftermarket installations, working with fleets of all kinds, everything from RVs to transit fleets to emergency vehicles. Jeff Varick is the founder and CEO, and he has been involved in the connected vehicle world since the Columbus Smart City project, and again in the Thea connected vehicle pilot down in Tampa, and then of course um, uh, more recent projects. So we are very excited to get his perspective on the installation of aftermarket OBU devices. They have successfully deployed, I think, over 15,000 vehicles installed with aftermarket OBUs. So in that process, there's some success stories, there's some lessons learned, and I think this is something that's very relevant and timely for our members to hear. And of course, his colleague Hayden has been involved in projects and with several OmniAir members, including Ohio DOT and Georgia DOT, and of course, future, we hope, OmniAir member Michigan DOT in deploying aftermarket OBUs as part of big projects. So look forward to that. I'm going to ask them to turn on their cameras and put their slides up and look forward to their presentation.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. You said we were involved a long time, and then you mentioned Columbus, and I thought for sure you were going to say since Columbus sailed the seas, and it hasn't been that long, but it's been a long time.
1492. That's right.
Yeah, right. No, definitely have been at this for a while, and so we're just delighted to talk to the OmniAir group. It's a very focused group, exactly aligned with our mission and what we're trying to do, and we're delighted to be members. And we were very happy to be at the Plug Fest. It was an excellent event. So we're gonna just talk about some of the lessons we've learned over the years, and I'm joined by our senior manager of project management, Hayden Weaker, oversees all of our deployments across the United States and has been with us for 5 years. So he's got a lot of lessons from the front lines, and I think he's the best spokesperson. Next slide.
And thank you very much for the introduction, Jason and Jeff. I just want to quickly ask, can all the members see the slides? Okay, everything look good from a presentation standpoint?
Yep, all good.
Awesome, thank you.
Awesome thumbs ups there. So our goals in general, let me talk about those. You know, we're not an ITS company. We didn't start as an ITS company. We started as a aftermarket supplier of OEM grade safety devices. And so getting involved in VDEX and being on that journey for the last 12 years is really completely aligned with our mission to use technology to save lives and retrofit vehicles with cameras, sensors, and of course VDEX devices. Um, so 12 years of being involved, we have a high desire to kind of share our lessons from over 60 deployments. Jason mentioned 15,000. We think that's about how many in total are in the United States, roughly about 15,000. We've done about half of those. I think it makes us the largest installer of OBUs in North America. And what we're really focused on, you know, the first, we kind of look at the first three waves of this, and we're probably squarely in the second wave right now. The first wave was a lot of IOO and agency funded and agency vehicles that we were installing in consumer vehicles in Tampa and Columbus. Now, and some of the lessons that Hayden's going to share with us come from the agencies trying to involve private and public fleets. And those are a different set of lessons than we learned in our first wave about consumer and how do you recruit people and how do you get them to show up on time, and then what are the challenges with just receiving any type of vehicle and doing a secure installation. These are going to be different, and they're fascinating because we think that's the next wave is private fleets and getting them involved. We think the equation goes like this, you know, will they participate? Can we get them to participate? And then in phase 3, will they pay? Will they pay for the device when nobody else is subsidizing it? And that's truly what we're focused on, because that's our core business, is selling aftermarket safety systems through certified installers nationwide. And we have over 3,000 points of sale and installation of Brand Motion products in the United States. And of course, our biggest goal of them all is to see road deaths cut. And we put a number on it. We say by 10% in 10 years. And that would be a lot of lives. Next slide, please. So as we're getting into this deep into this second phase, and then looking towards the third phase of deployment of VDEX, we're really focused on what consumers and what fleets value. What do they want in their vehicles? What will they be willing to pay for? And so we were excited to see at ITS this POCO Labs research funded by M-City and SAE around the hierarchy of needs and wants by consumers when it comes to VDEX. And you can see safety clearly took the lead in terms of interest, followed by efficiency, parking transactions, et cetera. So they're about to do another study. We're going to be part of that with commercial fleets, and that's going to be really interesting to see and hear what commercial fleets think of VDEX and what they want in those solutions. Next slide. And so this is one of our favorite slides. We're not focused on the 17 million 15 million new vehicles in the United States that come out of factories every year. We're focused on the almost 300 million vehicles that are already on the road, and that includes fleets, fire trucks, police cars, 18-wheelers, you name it. We're focused on equipping those to see an impact sooner than later. Next slide. So I've said a little bit about us. Jason mentioned we're based in Detroit. And we were originally spun out from Johnson Controls Automotive, a major tier one. Our sister company sells safety products to fleets like FedEx and DTE. And we're not installers, we're really integrators, and there's a big difference in that, in how we approach what we do. And the certifications that we bring make, I think, a big difference. So with that, I got one more slide. Next slide, please. This is our operating model around being a vehicle integrator. And what you'll hear in some of the lessons learned from Hayden, there's a heavy emphasis on measuring twice, cutting once, setting the upfront expectations, the requirements, creating the documentation, and knowing exactly what you're setting out to do. Because if you don't do it well, you can lose participants and interest of fleets along the way, and we've seen a lot of that happen. So moves to system design and engineering, sourcing, system validation of the entire vehicle, and then of course installation and post-installation support. But these are all the sub items that play into a deployment. With that, I'll turn it over to Hayden to take us through some of the lessons from 60 deployments that we've done in the past.
Thank you, Jeff, and thanks everyone for allowing us to present today. So Brand Motion, as an integrator of connected vehicle equipment, onboard units, and the subcomponents that accompany those, we think we've learned a lot, especially as in our role as a prime point of interface between the DOTs and the project sponsors and the fleets that are actually deploying the technology in their vehicles. So our key lessons are twofold. They're both to highlight some of our success stories, as well as kind of share some cautionary tales that we've learned from our many deployments. We consider our key lessons are these six, which is securing engaged fleet stakeholders, formalizing commitments early on in a project, developing pain point driven use cases in collaboration with stakeholders, and especially those fleet groups who are going to be operating the equipment, involving fleets in hardware selection and design. I'll dive into that a little bit more, and we think we can share some useful lessons for OBU teams as well as transportation teams that are deploying the technology. Also educating the drivers who are going to be viewing any alerts that may come from an OBU system. Also deploying the technology at the right time, aligning or synchronizing the deployment of OBUs with when applications are at a mature level of readiness. So for our first lesson learned, we think it's so important to secure engaged fleet stakeholders. So by that we mean secure commitment from fleet stakeholders who are aware of V2X, who have an understanding of the value proposition that V2X brings for safety, for efficiency, who may come with some of their own use cases and things that they want to accomplish with V2X technology. It's amazing what we learn about fleets and how they operate from those departments and agencies that are partnered with us, telling us how they use their vehicles on a regular basis and explaining to us how they feel that this will benefit their drivers and improve safety of their communities. So in addition to that, these are the teams that are going to ensure things like vehicle access, progress in terms of timeline, allowing us to equip vehicles in a timely fashion in order to reach that critical operational phase of a project when there's data collection going on and user feedback is being received. Also allowing us to speak to their drivers and their other team members to perform training and build awareness about the system, kind of a critical outreach piece. And then performing testing support. Oftentimes, we'll need to use the OBU equipped vehicles to perform testing at the intersection. So these are all of the things that require that engagement. Just as a story, we recently worked with a project team and a freight partner. So this was a private fleet who had committed to provide vehicles to a project to equip with OBUs. There was this perceived benefit, and they were excited initially to engage with us on the project. But as we got a little further into the planning phase, it was only then that we learned that they had an interesting vehicle ownership model. They actually leased their vehicles primarily, and there was kind of more regular turnover than the lifespan of the vehicle, but rather they were returning vehicles to the dealership. And there were asked big questions about how do we remove this device from one of our vehicles and equip it in the new vehicle that we get from the dealership. And we mentioned that really we were trying to keep devices in operation for as long as possible in order to collect useful data and information. And as they learn more about the downtime that inevitably comes with installation, and without having some sense of the schedule in advance, they started to back out of the project, and it created a long timeline delay for our teams. And ultimately, we had to reach out to other freight partner stakeholders to see if they would be willing to provide vehicles. So it really changed the nature of our project. And so I think it's not only important to have engaged fleet stakeholders, but it's essential. Also, formalizing those commitments from fleet stakeholders early, maybe in the form of a memorandum of understanding or a deployment agreement. These are some of the things that we've heard utilized by DOTs and sort of the local agency partners. Whenever there's a DOT sponsor for a project and they're involving local fleets and a community, just establishing right off the the onset of a project, how many vehicles are we targeting for installation, and where should those vehicles be operating that they're going to get the most interaction with infrastructure, and ultimately set some expectations about downtime that may be needed for installation. Also coordinate early with an integrator team or an installer team so that we can craft our schedule and resources in order to be as minimally disruptive as possible to operations. Define vehicles and use cases. So sometimes there's a thought in mind of the use case for a certain application, and we want to make sure that that's well understood by the fleet in advance. When we've had that understanding in advance, the fleet management teams, the principals in terms of those fleets, they are the first to kind of be on our side for engaging their drivers and making sure that they're receptive to providing feedback and making sure that the importance of the system is known. And then after a project is in operation, they're often our loudest supporters. So it's great when that takes place. And then ultimately aligning those stakeholders with our requirements. I see the key requirement there as being timeline. So that's term of operation, deployment term as well. So actually getting the system equipped and installed in vehicles. Those are key requirements that we're all held to by various reporting and other requirements, but we need to make sure that the fleets are aware as well. A cautionary tale from a recent project also involving a private freight company was that we deployed, there were sort of, we'll call it approximately 20 OBUs available for a project. And ultimately, we were only able to install about half of those. That's because what we learned was all 20 vehicles that we had targeted at the early stages of the project were not going to be traveling this connected corridor that we had identified and where the drivers were supposed to be seeing alerts for certain infrastructure obstructions and things like that. So we had to reduce the overall number of OBUs deployed And then also we didn't have the kind of duration of the operational period as we initially anticipated, which still a very good project. We did have approximately 10 vehicles deployed, and it was successful. But I know that there was some hope that we could achieve greater penetration and further data collection. Also developing pain point driven use cases. So what aspects of the fleet's operation are they trying to address with other technologies? Is it possible that CV2X technology could assist them in some way? We know there's a lot of overlapping connected technologies in vehicles nowadays. Things like a dispatch software that comes on a tablet interface or a in-vehicle terminal, also telematics programs and things like that. So is there an element of CV2X technology that will fit one of their already pre-existing pain points that they're trying to address with technology? And how can we share with them more information about the system so that they see that alignment and are more eager to participate in a project? So things we know are that priority and preemption applications have immediate impact on operational efficiency. So we're seeing this in some cold weather environments, projects involving snowplows, for instance. So allowing snowplows to get preemption at a light in order to continue plowing through an intersection without having to stop and change the way that they're clearing our roads. So very interesting application use case. Another one is to establish fleet-specific value propositions. Something that we recently learned from a project in Florida was that there was a particular fire fleet who had already committed vehicles, but when they found out about the safety benefits of the technology, they were eager to report the deployment of the OBUs to their ISO rating kind of partner. And they're always trying to improve their ISO rating, advertise the safety of their fleet. So that was interesting. We had not heard of fleets using this CV2X technology to actually improve their own standards and certifications. So we were glad to help them in that case, and they have become a great kind of mouthpiece for the technology and speaking about it, and are willing to provide testimonials and things of that nature. So very beneficial for us as well as our DOT partner in that project. Another aspect of this is that that same project involved a large countywide fire department, EMS department. They were also kind of in terms of they were responsible for guiding their partner agencies, city fleets, fire departments for technology that they wanted to equip. But ultimately, it was optional if those city fleets wanted to participate. One of the things that the fire department in this case wasn't aware of was some of the standard safety applications that came with the OBU that we were equipping on their vehicle. They were aware of the preemption use case and very excited to explore that and see how that worked at in an area of high RSU penetration at the intersections. But they actually were receiving forward collision warning without even knowing it as one of the standard applications. And then two vehicles with OBUs equipped were approaching one another at an intersection and actually received an HMI alert that said there was a potential risk of impact. And so they were able to change their driving behavior in order to avoid that collision. And then ultimately it was that instance of realizing they had forward collision warning that they then mandated that their city fleets, the ones that they were otherwise allowing to be optional participants, they said, no, we need you to equip this in your vehicles. It's going to be a benefit to all of us, because interagency, fire departments responding to a single emergency, they aren't necessarily, their dispatch systems are not communicating with one another. So having that V2V communication was considered critical, and they heavily incentivized or required the city agencies to install the technology as well. Pretty interesting. And then tailoring applications to solve real world everyday problems. I think we're seeing this maybe mostly in our projects with the emergence of unique TIM applications. So also for agencies in Florida, they're deploying a really unique TIM solution, and that's covers some of the unique climate challenges that they're experiencing in Florida. So for instance, hurricane evacuation routes, hurricane storm warnings, things like that will be broadcast to drivers to give them some early notification of some climate or environmental safety situation that they will need to avoid. So I think more applications that are tailored to the specific geographies and climates and conditions that a fleet has to operate in will get more buy-in from those fleets going forward, including those private fleets that we all want to work with. Another key lesson learned is involving fleets in hardware selection and design. I remember from a recent project where we had an RF specialist on site with us, working with a fleet manager team and maintenance team, as well as our technicians who are going to perform the installations, all talking about the values of different antenna options that were available to a project. And we came up with really unique solutions that were what the fleet needed. Occasionally we hear that based on the ownership model of the vehicles in a fleet that, permanent mounted antennas, drill through antennas are not an option. If they permanently modify the vehicle, they can't then sell them back to the dealerships where they purchased them from. So we've had to come up with some creative solutions, but by involving all of those levels, engineering level to install level to the regular maintenance officials of a fleet, helped us make a wise decision in that case about what antenna choice we were going to make. And for instance, antenna cable length is sometimes a limitation that we have to discuss at the onset of a project. But by having that fleet group already an active participant in the project, we were able to make a selection that we knew would work going in. So before procurement was all the way completed, we had the correct bill of materials needed to provide the best outcomes. And that kind of leads us into another key item of these OBUs that Jeff mentioned or touched on, which is that how do we alert the driver? Oftentimes it's a critical piece of an OBU subsystem is the HMI selection. There's various numbers of HMIs, and Jeff has spent a lot of time and also with our sister company designing creative display and UI solutions. So it's important to involve the driver. It's a critical point of data collection. What are drivers able to look at without being distracted? Something we often hear is we don't want another tablet. We don't want a smart device being used in our vehicles. It can be distracting. It can also be hard to set up and maintain being paired with a certain OBU options. It's not always something easy for the drivers to interface with if they're not familiar with the equipment. So we've heard that using these other display options is what most fleets are asking for at the onset of these projects. And so Jeff mentioned it by trying to create a seamless display to the driver that is otherwise invisible as a part of the system is what we found kind of the most success with. So for instance, heads-up display, an in-mirror display, or a small light bar that illuminates kind of on the windshield are really seamless and heavily desired options when we present them to various fleets. This was also a result of that POCO Lab study is that 88% of the population that was surveyed wants features to function independent of a mobile device. So that's could be a tablet or a smartphone. We're trying to reduce distractions for drivers. They're already responsible for looking at other, tablets or display or dispatch terminals for some of our emergency services fleets. They would prefer to not look at a tablet or a phone for that matter. They're looking for something that's more seamless less distracting. Also, educating drivers and building a usable interface. So I think this is critical to establishing regular kind of habits around looking at the HMI that we've installed. Unfortunately, in some of our projects, we've made an HMI selection and as part of the procurement, and then when we went to perform the installation, we were actually asked to install the HMI in an area that wasn't immediately visible to the driver. Basically, unfortunately, not getting all the results that they would normally get from a critical safety alert that's provided by an OBU. So how can we add additional value on top of those alerts? Some of the things we've seen, which are really unique, are regular boot and status icons. So the drivers can be part of the sort of issue reporting process. If they're not seeing something when the system comes online, they can actually be an early reporter to let us know if maybe there's an issue with the OBU, that it's not working properly. Also, just having that regular item that they can check to make sure that it's working properly is something that we've seen to be very beneficial, and we hear good feedback when there's that seamless display and it has a function that the drivers understand. If it needs to beep or to show an icon upon start, that's something we hear is really beneficial. Another critical piece or key lesson learned that we found is that we should avoid deploying OBUs before they're ready to show meaningful information. Sometimes we've deployed OBUs. In one recent case, we deployed OBUs before the V2I applications were working properly. So whether it be that the RSU still needed some additional programming, or the apps just weren't at the level of readiness for the deployment, we did have the feedback that the drivers assumed the system wasn't working, ultimately damaging the trust they had and the reliability of this HMI. That was it going to show them anything important? We seem to lose some trust in that respect. So we want to make sure we avoid those circumstances whenever possible, or at least keep those fleets aware of the timeline for when those applications are going to be relevant. Also sharing with them the kind of application use cases in smart visual diagrams to allow them to understand when they're going to see certain applications or certain icons be displayed. That will allow them to know what driving actions they may need to make in order to, once they see something. I think easy ones to know are do not enter for kind of wrong way driver, or forward collision warning with a smart alert that shows two vehicles potentially colliding with one another. That's pretty clear. But there's others like deployment of TIM applications where, well, what does that mean to the driver? So helping the drivers understand what they need to do in certain circumstances, we think is a key lesson learned as well. So just to reiterate and kind of build on what works, the 6 lessons learned are securing the engaged fleet stakeholders, formalizing commitments early, developing pain point driven use cases in collaboration with stakeholders, involving fleets in hardware selection and design, educating drivers and building a smart UI, and then deploying the technology with applications ready to deliver value. So we're always learning new lessons, and we're happy to discuss any of these further, our experiences with these. Really appreciate everyone's time to listen in, and yeah, please let us know if there's any questions.
Hey guys, that was a fantastic presentation. I think that could have gone on another half hour, but that was really good. Lots of great information out there. Let me get the ball rolling. I know we've got a couple questions in the chat box, and encourage anyone who has questions to type in the chat box or raise your hand. But let me just start with this. You talked about engaging the installers early in the process. One, when do you find sort of the project leaders engaging you typically? And what are some of the benefits, engaging prior to the grant going in or prior to the, long before the project started? I think I want to maybe pull on that thread a little bit.
Hayden, can I answer that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so we're usually, brought in, we're usually on a team, right? Um, Consultants and OB providers, et cetera. So that's not the problem. The problem typically is, how much role the fleet has if they're a part of the core team or if they're just kind of an afterthought. And you may, the city may call the fleet and say, hey, we want you to be part of this. And that's about the end of the conversation. And they'll say yes, but there's a shortage of effort often in like really going into the details about, like Hayden said, do you own your vehicles? Do you lease them? Are there concerns about being out of service? We have 24-hour shifts now, or 24/7 shifts and 7 days as needed to accommodate a lot of that. But sometimes, and you got to get that up front or you're scrambling at the end.
No, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Um, and then let me just ask something from personal experience. I looked at a startup some years ago, and we sold AVL systems and RTPI systems into bus fleets. And we found that project success often really involved getting the drivers on board, getting the workforce on board. Can you maybe sort of talk about sort of how that's part of your wheelhouse?
Hayden?
Yeah, one of the things that we have the chance to do a lot of times is engage with drivers as they bring their vehicles in for installation. When we do that, we take every opportunity to talk to them about the project, sort of let them know what they're going to see, if there's an HMI included, what the purpose of the project is, what the long-term goals are. And then there's this level of excitement about having their vehicle be part of this connected infrastructure. They're excited to be part of the cutting edge technology. So kind of selling or just simply explaining the benefits for safety,
Mm.
and that this is a step in the roadmap to a more connected world that we hope we're going to start seeing from manufacturers to these large fleets and things like that. So it's they're often very excited to talk about it, and they like to talk about what they do on a daily basis. So understanding from them how our applications could benefit their driving experiences is also great.
Excellent, excellent. All right, let's go through some of the questions. Aaron Newman from Keysight has the big question. It's a basic one, but it's the important one. What are some of the major challenges in installing aftermarket OBUs? Why can't fleet operators just do this themselves?
Well, it's not technical. That's the easy part. It's the human systems
Mm.
that really present the challenges. But I mean, there are challenges at times on the vehicle side. Hayden, do you want to address any of those?
Yeah, I think, I mean, for instance, maybe one that's just really um, kind of well understood is that resource constraints. So they already have to make their vehicles available for installation, but the time to have specialized technicians with an electronic skill set performing the installation. Oftentimes, there's also the setup and configuration of onboard devices that takes some understanding of how the system works, and then also we are always performing some aspect of validation and testing. And I think, as we probably all know, there's kind of a special language around connected vehicles, and it's not the core skill set of the regular fleet maintenance technician. So just by us being a really well trained or very experienced team of installers gives the fleets peace of mind, and also reduces the burden on their maintenance teams to be installing one more thing when they just already have the job of maintaining vehicles that are being used every day.
Excellent, excellent. All right, now there was one question in the chat box, and I know Jeff, you answered it. For those who can't see the chat box, I'm going to ask you just to answer it orally. From Henry McDonald of Keysight, what are the most popular use cases that fleets are interested in, and what happens in areas where RSUs have not been installed?
Yeah, so good question. I think, there is high interest in preemption, freight signal priority to save time and to get, um, save time at the intersection to get extended green lights. And I definitely see an interest, a growing interest by fleets on vulnerable roadside user protection. FedEx recently picked up our 360 surround view vision system, and we're installing those on every FedEx walk-in van. And because they're making a serious commitment to safety, those vehicles are hard to see around, and they're operating around people and objects just all the time. And so they've made a major commitment that the rest of the industry, I think, is going to follow around VRU protection. It's awesome to see. And then where RSUs are not present, I mean, that's really the big issue, right? And with a lack of a national deployment, I think that's where things like Network V2X get super interesting. And, you may not be able to handle the critical alerts, but you can definitely provide hazard warnings and emergency vehicle alerts and most importantly, work zone alerts. We had in Michigan 2 months ago on I-94 by Jackson, we had two semis crash into a line of cars at a work zone on 2 different days, back to back. One day and one the next day, and the work zone thing is a real problem. So anything that can be done, RSU or network should be done.
Henry, does that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks. Great presentation, by the way, guys. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Excellent. I think it was a little surprising for me because I don't think you hear enough about the freight applications of V2X technology to hear that that's the #1 use case right now. I feel like in ITS, it's something we used to talk more about, and we should probably continue to talk more about that because it seems like it's a growing area.
Yeah.
So Julio from the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey, asked, across your deployments in complex urban environments, I'm guessing New York City comes to mind, what two V2X use cases have delivered the fastest, most visible safety or efficiency gains? And what was the metric, and what single metric told you it was time to scale?
Time to scale in terms of that readiness to deploy more broadly, or
Julio, are you
Yes,
want to speak up?
thank you.
okay. I think as we've talked about, I think most of the use cases, around safety, it's hard to say because every deployment has its own different goals. Hayden, would you say there's one or two, say, use cases that have overlap between all the deployments in terms of what they were trying to achieve that had the most impact?
I do have a lot of personal, I've heard good feedback from fleets regarding the emergence of unique TIM applications, whether that be for instance, work zone alerts in an area, a highly urbanized area, if there's a great deal of traffic around work zones, or when workers are present, oftentimes this speed limit is reduced. So providing those location specific alerts, via a TIM message is something that I think gets a wide adoption, as well as for emergency services fleets. If we can, if there's a way to offer priority or preemption, there's often that, efficiency of operations.
Yeah, for emergency and bus, that's definitely one of the fastest, most visible gains. And then for the single metric, that tells us it's time to scale, I'm just going to remind us all of the, 39,000 deaths in America. And that I don't need any more metrics than that. It's time to scale. It's time to make an impact on that. That's really at the end of the day what drives us.
I think that's a good note to leave it on. At the end of the day, that's the most important thing. Wanted to thank you, gentlemen, for just an excellent presentation. I see you put your contact information up here. I hope folks feel free to reach out to them if they have questions about projects or future projects. And then hopefully we'll have a version of this presentation we can make available to members who might be interested.
Certainly.
All right, one more, something else coming in. Okay, thank you all for joining. All right.